After dating for 2 years, our first trip to Atlantic City exposed my girlfriend's extreme jealousy. She got jealous of every woman I talked to, including store employees and a mother with her child. When I broke up with her, she claimed she was pregnant. I, 23M, have been dating Kelly, 22F, for about 2 years now. We're both still in college, and until recently, I thought things were going pretty well between us. But a recent trip to Atlantic City changed everything, and now I don't know what to think. Kelly and I planned this trip for months. It was supposed to be our first real getaway together after finishing our spring semester finals. We'd been talking about it since winter break. Her roommate Jenna, 22F, and Jenna's boyfriend Mark, 24M, came along too. I'd only met them a handful of times before the trip, but they seemed nice enough. I should mention that I've never been the type to stay in relationships for very long. Before Kelly, my longest relationship lasted about 8 months. My older brother always tells me I bail too quickly, that I'm looking for some perfect person who doesn't exist, and that I never stick around long enough to work through normal relationship issues. He might be right about some of that. But what happened on this trip felt different. Before Atlantic City, Kelly and I spent most of our time together on campus, in the dorms, at the library, or occasionally going out to eat with her friends. Looking back, we rarely did anything that put us in situations with lots of other people around. We stayed in our college bubble. The problem started before we even reached Atlantic City. At the bus terminal, we found out the bus was nearly full. Jenna and Mark managed to get the last pair of seats together. The only available seats were singles scattered throughout the bus. Kelly and I would have to sit separately for the 3-hour ride. I tried asking a few people if they'd switch seats so Kelly and I could sit together, but no one wanted to move. I found 2 empty seats, one next to an older man who was already sleeping, and another next to a woman with shopping bags. I let Kelly choose. She picked the seat next to the sleeping man, and I took the one next to the woman with bags. The woman turned out to be quite friendly. She was heading to Atlantic City for a business conference and spent most of the ride telling me about her job in pharmaceutical sales. I didn't mind the conversation since it made the time pass faster. When we finally arrived and got off the bus, Kelly looked furious. She pulled me aside while Jenna and Mark went to get our bags. She said I seemed to be enjoying the bus ride too much and didn't look bothered at all about not sitting together. I told her it was just a bus ride and there wasn't anything we could do about the seating situation. She went on about how I was too busy talking to that woman to even look back at her during the trip. Jenna came over and pulled Kelly away, telling her to calm down. Eventually, Kelly apologized, but I could tell she was still upset. When we got to the hotel, I discovered we were all staying in one suite together. Apparently, Jenna's parents had connections at the hotel and got us a deal on a penthouse room with 2 separate bedroom areas. It wasn't ideal, I would have preferred more privacy, but the room was nice and spacious. Later that night, when Kelly was in the shower, Jenna mentioned that they had originally planned to book 2 separate rooms, but Kelly had insisted on getting the suite so we could all stay together. This surprised me because Kelly never mentioned this to me. I would have preferred having our own room. The first full day, we walked around the boardwalk. Atlantic City in June was busy, with lots of people out enjoying the sun. We'd been walking for about 20 minutes when I noticed Kelly staring at me intensely. At first, I thought she wanted my attention, but then I realized she was watching my eyes, tracking what I was looking at. It made me uncomfortable. I told her she was missing all the sights by focusing on me. She just shrugged and grabbed my hand tighter. The situation got worse when we went shopping at the outlet mall. Every time a female store employee approached me to offer assistance or hand me a coupon, Kelly would suddenly appear at my side, answering questions directed at me or taking the coupons out of their hands. At one clothing store, a sales associate was helping me find a shirt in my size when Kelly interrupted and said we were just browsing. I apologized to the associate after Kelly walked away. That evening, we took a shuttle bus to a casino. The bus was packed, and Jenna and Kelly got the last 2 seats. Mark and I stood near them, holding onto the overhead rails. A couple in front of us had clearly been drinking heavily. When the bus made a sharp turn, they lost their balance and fell backward. Mark and I caught them before they could hit the floor. Later, Kelly said we shouldn't have touched them, that we didn't know those people, and they could have managed on their own. Mark looked confused, and Jenna quickly changed the subject. On the 3rd day of our trip, Kelly said she wasn't feeling well and wanted to stay in the hotel room. I offered to go get medicine or food, but she insisted I stay with her and just order room service. We spent the entire day watching movies in the room. She seemed happier than she had been the previous days, constantly holding my hand or leaning against me. The day before we were set to leave, we went to a restaurant inside one of the casinos. Our server was dressed in a showgirl costume, which was apparently the theme of the place. She was very flirtatious with all the men at our table. When she brought our drinks, she winked at me and called me handsome. Kelly's face turned red. The server noticed Kelly's reaction and seemed to find it amusing, becoming even more flirtatious with me. Jenna laughed it off when the server did the same to Mark, even playing along and telling the server that Mark would love another drink from you. Beautiful. Kelly, on the other hand, just stared at her plate. I tried to ignore the server's flirting, but the whole situation was uncomfortable. By the end of the meal, I had mentally checked out. On the bus ride home, Kelly acted like nothing had happened. She talked about what a great time she had and how we should plan another trip soon. I nodded along but didn't commit to anything. When we got back to campus and were alone in my dorm room, I brought up her behavior during the trip. At first, she denied that anything was wrong. When I pressed her, she finally apologized and said she hadn't been feeling like herself lately. She explained that her ex-boyfriend had cheated on her twice and treated her badly, which made her insecure in relationships. I told her that while I understood past relationships could cause issues, her behavior in Atlantic City was over the top. I described each incident in detail, watching my eyes on the boardwalk, interrupting store employees, getting upset about the bus incident, making me stay in the room all day, and the restaurant situation. Kelly promised she would try to change but admitted she didn't know if she could. She said this might just be how she is. The lack of commitment to actually changing bothered me. I told her that if things didn't improve, I would have to rethink our relationship. She just stared at me blankly. After our talk, I started thinking about our relationship more critically. I realized that we rarely did anything outside our campus routine. Whenever I suggested trips or activities that involved going to crowded places, Kelly always had an excuse not to go. She had even been reluctant about the Atlantic City trip initially, coming up with various reasons why we should postpone it. I'd always attributed this to her being more of a homebody, but now I wondered if there was more to it. A week after returning from Atlantic City, I decided to talk to Jenna. I asked if there was anything about Kelly's past that might explain her behavior, because I was seriously considering ending the relationship. Jenna hesitated before telling me I should give Kelly another chance. She suggested a day trip to the beach that weekend with a group of friends. I agreed, thinking it might be good to see how Kelly acted in a different environment. Kelly clearly didn't want to go to the beach. She only agreed after Jenna and some other friends convinced her. When we arrived, everyone changed into swimwear, but Kelly asked me to keep my t-shirt on, claiming she was worried about me getting sunburned. When I eventually took it off after getting too hot, she asked every half hour if I was ready to put it back on. Walking along the boardwalk was even worse than in Atlantic City. Kelly constantly monitored where I was looking. If my eyes happened to glance in the direction of a group of women, she would make a comment about it. If I deliberately avoided looking, she would say things like those girls were staring at me. It was exhausting and embarrassing. The breaking point came later that afternoon. We were sitting on our beach towels when a volleyball landed near us. A girl came over to retrieve it, and I handed it to her. She thanked me and jogged back to her friends. About 15 minutes later, the ball landed nearby again, and the same girl came to get it. This happened once more before Kelly started insisting that they were doing it on purpose, sending the same girl over to get a better look at me. I told her that was ridiculous. The wind was blowing in our direction, and they were at least 30 yards away. While Kelly was getting a drink from the cooler, I decided to cool off by swimming out near the buoys. While I was out there, I noticed two kids, probably around 10 to 12 years old, struggling to swim back to shore. They had gone out too far and were getting tired. I swam over and asked if they needed help. They nodded, clearly exhausted. I helped them swim back until they could touch the bottom. They thanked me repeatedly. As I was walking back to our spot on the beach, I overheard them telling each other not to tell their parents they had gone out so far. When I got back to our towel, Kelly immediately asked what I was doing with those kids. I explained that they were struggling in the water and needed help. Her response floored me. She asked why I had to be the one to help them and said that's what lifeguards were for. An older couple sitting nearby looked shocked by her comment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That night, after we got back from the beach, I broke up with Kelly. I told her that her behavior was too much for me to handle and that I hoped she would work on her insecurities. She started crying and begging me to stay, saying she needed me to help her change and that I was giving up on her too easily. When I stood firm, she became angry and said it would be my fault if she never got better. As I turned to leave, she blurted out that she was pregnant. I knew this was impossible. We hadn't been intimate since before her last period, which was just a week before our trip. I didn't respond to her claim and just left. She ran out into the hallway, calling after me to come back. I stopped by Jenna and Mark's room to let them know I was leaving. Jenna seemed upset but not surprised. Then she told me something that confirmed my decision. Kelly's story about her ex-boyfriend cheating on her was greatly exaggerated. According to Jenna, Kelly's ex had lunch with a female colleague who happened to be a childhood friend. Kelly had accused him of emotional cheating and made his life miserable until they broke up. I deleted Kelly's number that night and blocked her on social media. I'm still processing everything that happened, but one thing is clear, my instincts were right this time. This wasn't about me running away from a relationship at the first sign of trouble. This was about recognizing a situation that wasn't healthy and removing myself from it. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since I broke up with Kelly, and things have gotten worse instead of better. I thought that by removing myself from the situation, everything would calm down, but that hasn't been the case. The day after our breakup, Kelly started texting and calling me constantly. Since I had blocked her number, these attempts failed, so she began showing up at my dorm. Campus security had to ask her to leave twice. My roommate Jeff, 22M, told me she waited outside our building for almost 3 hours one day when I was in class. A week after the breakup, I was studying at the library when Kelly found me. She sat down across from me and started whispering about how she made a mistake and needed another chance. The librarian had to ask her to leave because she got louder when I wouldn't respond. I packed up my things and left through a side exit. The pregnancy lie continued. Kelly told multiple people on campus that I had gotten her pregnant and then abandoned her. 3 guys from her dorm confronted me outside the dining hall, calling me names until Jeff and another friend stepped in to defuse the situation. I had to explain the timeline to them, proving it was impossible for her to be pregnant with my child. I decided to meet with our university's counseling services to document what was happening and get advice. They suggested I keep records of all incidents and avoid being alone with Kelly. They also recommended I inform my professors about the situation in case she tried to disrupt my classes. Last week, things escalated further. I was at a small party at my friend's off-campus apartment when Kelly showed up uninvited. She had been drinking and started telling everyone I had abused her emotionally. My friend Mike, 23M, who was hosting the party, asked her to leave. She refused until Mike mentioned calling the police. As she was leaving, she knocked over a lamp and broke it. 2 days after the party incident, I found a note slipped under my dorm room door. It was from Kelly, saying she had evidence that I had cheated on her during our relationship and would share it with everyone unless I agreed to talk to her. I knew this was another lie, as I had never cheated on her, but it still worried me that she was spreading more false information. I went to talk to Jenna about the situation, hoping she might help reason with Kelly. What I learned from that conversation was eye-opening. Jenna admitted that Kelly's behavior wasn't new. In high school, Kelly had become obsessed with a boy in her class, following him around and monitoring his interactions with other girls. The boy's parents eventually complained to the school. Kelly was mandated to see the school counselor, but according to Jenna, she just told the counselor what they wanted to hear without actually addressing her issues. Jenna also revealed that during the first year of college, before Kelly met me, she had briefly dated a guy who broke things off after Kelly hacked into his social media accounts to delete comments from female friends. Kelly had apparently told Jenna it was justified because those girls were trying to steal her boyfriend. I asked Jenna why she never warned me about any of this. She looked genuinely remorseful and explained that Kelly had seemed much better since starting to date me. She thought Kelly had outgrown those behaviors. Jenna apologized for not speaking up sooner and admitted she should have been honest when I asked about Kelly's past before the beach trip. A few days ago, I ran into Kelly's previous ex-boyfriend, the one she claimed had cheated on her, at a coffee shop near campus. His name is Ryan, 24M, and he graduated last year but still lives in town. I introduced myself, and he immediately recognized my name. We ended up talking for over an hour. Ryan's version of events was drastically different from Kelly's. They dated for about 7 months during their sophomore year. The emotional cheating incident involved him having lunch with a female friend he'd known since elementary school. This friend was engaged and had invited Ryan to her wedding. Kelly demanded that Ryan cut off all contact with this friend. When he refused, Kelly started showing up at his classes, monitoring his phone, and accusing him of cheating whenever he spent time with his friends without her. Ryan finally ended things after Kelly damaged his car by scratching it with keys when she saw him giving his female cousin a ride to the airport. He said he had considered getting a restraining order but decided against it when Kelly finally stopped contacting him after about a month of harassment. Hearing Ryan's story made me realize that I wasn't overreacting by ending the relationship. Kelly's behavior followed a pattern that started long before she met me. Ryan suggested I document everything and consider legal options if her behavior continued or escalated. Yesterday, Kelly's roommate, not Jenna, but her other roommate Lisa, contacted me. She said Kelly had taken all the pills from their medicine cabinet into her room and posted a cryptic message on social media that worried her. I immediately called campus police to do a welfare check. They found Kelly was fine, the pills were still in their bottles, and she admitted it was a ploy to get my attention. The residence director has now moved Kelly to a different dorm building after this incident and placed her on probation. She's also been referred to mandatory counseling sessions. I hope this will be the wake-up call she needs to get help. I've decided to continue documenting everything just in case, but I'm hoping that with university officials now involved, Kelly will finally back off. My main focus now is finishing my semester without any more disruptions. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and fortunately, the situation with Kelly has improved somewhat, though not without a few more concerning incidents. After Kelly was moved to a different dorm and started mandatory counseling, Her direct attempts to contact me decreased. The university took the situation seriously, especially after the fake suicide threat. They established a no-contact order between us, which meant Kelly could face disciplinary action if she approached me on campus. Despite these measures, Kelly found other ways to insert herself into my life. About 3 weeks after my last update, I discovered she had created a fake social media profile and was using it to monitor my activities. She had even contacted several of my female friends through this fake account, asking questions about me and our relationship. One of my friends became suspicious and showed me the messages. Around the same time, Kelly started dating a guy from my intramural basketball team, Tom, 22M. At first, I thought this was a positive development, maybe she had moved on. But during a game, Tom approached me and asked about my anger issues and why I had mistreated Kelly. It became clear that she was dating him partly to stay connected to my social circle and had fed him numerous lies about our relationship. I pulled Tom aside after the game and calmly explained my side of the story. I showed him the no-contact order from the university and texts from mutual friends documenting Kelly's behavior. He seemed genuinely confused and admitted that Kelly's version of events had been completely different. He promised to be careful and thanked me for the warning. 2 weeks later, Tom sought me out. He told me that after our conversation, he had started noticing red flags in Kelly's behavior. She would question him about his female classmates, check his phone when he wasn't looking, and once followed him to a study group because she didn't believe that's where he was going. When he confronted her about these behaviors, she became defensive and accused him of not trusting her. He ended their relationship after only 3 weeks of dating. Last month, I was walking across campus when I spotted Kelly sitting on a bench near my usual route. I changed direction to avoid her, but she had already seen me. Instead of approaching me, she made a show of crying loudly, attracting attention from passers-by. A campus security officer noticed the situation and approached her. I continued walking but later learned that Kelly had told the officer I had threatened her. Fortunately, security camera footage from that area showed that I had deliberately avoided her and never approached or spoke to her. After this incident, the university upgraded the no-contact order to include restrictions on Kelly being in certain areas of campus during specific times when I had classes. The dean of students also made it clear to Kelly that false reports would result in severe consequences. The most surprising development came 3 weeks ago. Jenna contacted me and asked to meet for coffee. During our conversation, she revealed that Kelly had been diagnosed with a mental health condition that could explain some of her behavior patterns. Jenna didn't specify what the diagnosis was, respecting Kelly's privacy, but said Kelly was now on medication and seeing a psychiatrist regularly in addition to the university counselor. Jenna also shared that Kelly's parents had finally been made aware of the situation. Apparently, Kelly had hidden her previous behavioral issues from them, making excuses or minimizing incidents. Now that they understood the severity of the problem, they were actively involved in her treatment plan. They were even considering having Kelly take a semester off to focus on her health. This information gave me mixed feelings. On one hand, I was relieved that Kelly was getting professional help and had family support. On the other hand, it made me wonder how things might have been different if she had received proper treatment earlier. Last week, I received an email from Kelly's father. It was brief but sincere. He apologized for his daughter's behavior and assured me that they were doing everything possible to help her. He asked that I not respond to the email to respect the no-contact order but wanted me to know that they were taking the situation seriously. I spoke with the university counselor about this development, and they advised me to maintain my boundaries regardless of Kelly's diagnosis or treatment. They reminded me that while mental health issues can explain behavior, they don't excuse harmful actions or mean I have any obligation to reconnect with Kelly. For now, I'm cautiously optimistic that the situation will continue to improve. I've maintained my distance and focused on my studies and friendships. The support from the university has been crucial, and I'm grateful they took my concerns seriously before things escalated further. I'm set to graduate next semester, which means I'll soon be leaving this campus environment altogether. While part of me feels sympathy for Kelly's struggles, I know I made the right decision in ending our relationship and maintaining firm boundaries afterward. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I've graduated from college. This will be my final update on the situation with Kelly. In the months following my last post, Kelly's direct interference in my life gradually decreased. The university's involvement and her own treatment seemed to be having a positive effect. I occasionally heard updates from mutual friends, but for the most part, I was able to focus on finishing my degree. There was one significant incident about a month before graduation. I was at an off-campus bar with friends when Kelly walked in with a group of people I didn't recognize. She spotted me immediately. Instead of causing a scene, she whispered something to one of her companions, a tall guy who then approached our table. He introduced himself as Kelly's cousin and asked if he could speak with me privately. Against my better judgment, and the protests of my friends, I agreed to step outside with him for a brief conversation. He was actually quite respectful and explained that Kelly had asked him to deliver a letter to me. When I hesitated to take it, he assured me it wasn't a romantic plea but rather an apology. He mentioned that writing it had been part of her therapy process, but she understood if I didn't want to read it. I accepted the letter but didn't open it until I got home that night. It was surprisingly mature and straightforward. Kelly acknowledged her behavior had been inappropriate and harmful. She took responsibility without making excuses, though she did mention she had been diagnosed with a condition that affected her ability to manage jealousy and abandonment fears. She was working with medical professionals and taking medication regularly. The letter ended with an explicit statement that she didn't expect a response and was not trying to re-establish contact. She simply wanted me to know she recognized the harm she had caused and was committed to changing her patterns. I never responded to the letter, following the advice of both the university counselor and my friends. However, I did feel a sense of closure from it. Graduation came and went without incident. Kelly and I were in different ceremonies due to our different majors, which made things easier. I had accepted a job offer in a city about 3 hours away and was preparing to move. 2 weeks after graduation, as I was packing up my apartment, Jenna stopped by to say goodbye. She mentioned that Kelly would be continuing treatment over the summer and returning to complete her final semester in the fall. According to Jenna, Kelly had made considerable progress and was developing healthier relationship boundaries. Jenna also revealed something that helped me understand Kelly's behavior a bit better. Apparently, Kelly's parents had gone through a messy divorce when she was in middle school, triggered by her father's infidelity. Kelly had walked in on her father with another woman, and the experience had traumatized her. This certainly didn't excuse her actions but provided some context for her extreme reactions to perceived threats to relationships. The day before I moved, I ran into Ryan, Kelly's ex before me, at the same coffee shop where we had talked months earlier. He mentioned that Kelly had reached out to him with a similar apology letter. He believed her apology was sincere but, like me, had no interest in re-establishing contact. We agreed that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do for both parties is to maintain distance. I've been in my new city for almost 4 months now. The job is going well, and I've started building a new social circle. Last month, I began dating someone I met through a work colleague. It's still very new, but refreshingly drama-free. I haven't heard anything about Kelly directly, though occasionally a college friend will mention her in passing. From what I gather, she's continuing treatment and focusing on graduating. I genuinely hope she's getting the help she needs. Looking back on this experience, I've learned a lot about recognizing unhealthy relationship patterns early and the importance of trusting my instincts. I've also gained appreciation for universities that take these situations seriously and provide proper support. This chapter of my life is now closed. While it was challenging and at times frightening, I'm coming away from it with valuable insights and a clearer sense of what I want, and don't want, in relationships.